Attention, attention. The PA does work. Just standing by, waiting for Liberty Tree Radio to come online for Monday to get the beginning of the week's report. So much is going on. We're in one of those situations. Oh, I'm not getting anything now. I got the phone on. I had ambiance music, then I got muted, and now I don't hear a goddamn thing. Maybe I got kicked out. Liberty Tree Radio. Admin, what's going on over there on Discourse? It's populating. Oh, he's brought it online to the conference call. All right. Oh, did you hear that, guys? Liberty Tree Radio admin, he's brought it online. I was worried. I was going, oh no. But I should be muted. He muted me.
Lock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat and, speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you to always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun, permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, Harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors so their children will be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear, be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kornke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, southwest, northeast, southeast, and east. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on LibertyTreeRadio.4MG.com, IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.com, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Freestanding from the internet, when they hit it and shut it down, we are now in test pattern right now along most of the grid in preparation for whatever offensive the Fruit Loops, Nutcases, and Dingleberries decide. Again, just a heads up for all of you out there, if you are hub operators especially, you're going to see a lot of additional test traffic over the next 4 to 6 days. If things escalate in the meantime, it won't be test traffic. You'll simply be shifting over, and I would remind everybody that those of us that are running right now with the nonsense with the internet, with all the trouble and garbage you're putting up with, that will be shifted sideways. We won't have that problem anymore. But what it does mean is there's going to be increased load. We are going to have to be prepared to replace hardware that has been running for quite some time. We already have standbys. Everybody's done the triple pack. Anywhere where we have a system, we have 3 backups sitting there. One actually on just a switcher, and the other 2 typically are disconnected. They're EMP-proof / they're gauzed. Everything is defended, ready to go. And we have multiples of backups to that, but they're spread out all over the place intentionally. So you can't go into one location and wipe out whatever communications we have. It just isn't possible. We have redundancy based on the old school redundancy package, not the pea-brain pinhead system you see today with the donut of destruction and, you know, the sellouts and the buyouts that have taken place there with the incompetence and constant, lack of quality, failure, and theft overseas. Anything we are supposed to build here gets ripped off and stolen and carried away anyway. So we've got it. They don't. And for that reason, we need to be ready for the big wave. Now, today's date, well, it is Monday. It is the 6th of January. It is the 12th year, I want to say. Oh, I almost said 11. It is the 12th year of Open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist Occupation of America with a K, 2020 Old Earth Calendar, 2020 Year of Conflict, Year of Betrayal. And, of course, Pickle Smoke and Mirrors. Bang the gong, look overseas, look quick, everybody, you got to look overseas. Isn't it amazing? I'm going to point this out. Donald Stinkin' Trump didn't open his mouth at all about what's going on with the gun grab across America because he's part of it, okay? No comment from any of these critters. And, of course, the Democrats, well, they're laughing their arse off because they've been told what the script is. The Republican rats, they know to shut their face, with the exception of you peasants. We peons out there, we, regular people. And the grassroots operations are doing what we've always done. If you keep the rest of these turds away from it, as far as the corporate types, you are going to be doing just fine. Virginia has worked all on its own, grassroots operations. Most of them will fumble the ball. Okay, let's expect that. They're thinking it's still going to be placemat setting, and everybody's going to have some kind of etiquette, and the other side's going to follow some kind of rules. And I don't think it really has come to their attention yet that the other side believes that there are no rules, because that's what Saul Alinsky said, that's what the communists taught, and that's what you better embrace. There are no rules. Rules are done. The moment this thing starts, all of the fiction that has been piled up upon fiction, that has been piled up upon fiction, that has been piled upon more fiction, is all gone. You will be free. Now, it means that you're also going to have to fight for your freedom, and you're going to have to, if you want to stay free, you're going to have to fight hard. When? You're going to end up with some hardship. Guess what? Otherwise, you'd have just ended up with hardship and probably a bullet to the back of the head or a death camp. Take your pick. So we're going to fight. And because of that, we need to be prepared to do so. Now, before we go any farther, and I know it's 12 minutes after it is Monday, and I didn't get the message so far. First of all, I want to check. Do we have our guest with us? And I'll give her a second to *6 to unmute just in case. Now, we may be running it at a later date. I can't pull into the system because I've got a bunch of diagnostics we're doing right now. Pulled a bunch of junk. Anything and everything I can find is going out the door. I'm not worried about burning anything I got that I've pulled up as far as what I have in my files. That's a laugh and a hoot. You know how many days I've spent just throwing more junk in that just is, encrypted, encoded, blah, 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 and it means nothing. That stays in the machine. Hopefully they're eating it right now. Okay? Any of our equipment that's hooked up to the system is non-critical. Or it wouldn't be hooked up to the system. Does everybody understand? That's how you should be treating things. That's why I'm not rushed. I was debating this today. I got to say this. I'm buying time just in case our guest is able to make it. If she is, just pipe in. It may be another hour, and I won't know because I got her message, but I couldn't pull it up right away, and then I had to get this other thing going because everything is plugged in for the diagnostic. So be patient there. But if this keeps going, I was thinking about, maybe just blast, buy a brand new, off-the-shelf, latest, but not greatest, not the most expensive. I'm not going to play any video games on this, so I don't need that much in the way of special tech. I just need to be able to hook up and run, and throw as much garbage and flak out there as we can, to hit the enemy with, all the air defense you've got. Okay, you dump everything, 20 millimeter, 50 cal, 30 caliber. They are aimed as well. But man, you get the quad, the 40s, the quad 40s, the GE miniguns, all that. They're hooked up to the fire control system, and they zip on target and away they go. That's what it sounds like. They're like a big, deep. Well, it depends. High pitch, low pitch, buzzsaw. Okay. And I'm thinking about it, it's like, no, it's money I could spend, whatever I get. Okay, think about it. Everybody goes, they're going to kill you. Okay, well, with that logic, it doesn't make any sense for me to buy a really brand new machine, does it? It's like, I might as well piece together whatever I can, because that way if they're going to piss on it and they're going to mess with it, it's like they don't get jack squat, and I'm not out anything. And the money that we'd have wasted on Silicon Valley, which are our hated enemy, goes towards weapon systems, body armor, helmets, equipment, radio gear, whatever else. And that's a lot of radio gear, because right now we've been really making some great deals on technology. So just outfitted another unit here that's to the south of us, actually south of Ann Arbor, that a new militia unit, got them all squared away, got all their stuff. They're squared away with each radio, one per person. I ran into a deal here. We linked up. I made the deal. And then they just covered the cost, and, they even covered some gas money, and everything's happy. So took care of that the last couple of days. Not today. We've been too busy with other things. But what's fascinating is there's a lot of good equipment out there. I'll tell you what, Facebook Marketplace. Also Craigslist. Why? Bundles of radios. A lot of people, for whatever reason, bought it for security company, their private business, whatever. Things are tighter, especially where they're, a lot of these companies are like landscaping or whatever. It could be any number of things. And the radios you've been looking at for like $35, $55, or $100 a piece, I think you should go look at Facebook Marketplace and do a quick survey. I just bought 26 of those, not FRS, but the VHF, UHF Baofengs for $55. I think about, what was it, total of 27 for $55. Now, 2 of them didn't work. But the guy actually said, hey, these 2 don't work, but they're spare parts. And it's like, yep, that's okay. And they said, why are you getting rid of these? He goes, well, I don't really need them. I'm going to, cheaper FRS only because these guys beat them up, and I've already gone through most of them, and I got my money's worth out of them. And then I said, well, they're going to a militia unit. And he threw in a couple of other batteries and spare parts he had for that he figured he could have used on his. But when I told him we were supporting a militia unit that was organizing right now, he gave me all the rest of the goodies. There's a lot of people, they're pissed. They'll do what they can. They don't have a lot. But remember, I told you this before, guys, if you could throw 3 cases of beans on the front porch when the war starts, as the troops are going by, you've made a difference. If all of you out there pick an area that you have, that's your area of expertise where you may be able to get spares, extras, toss-outs, whatever, and it's something that's useful. We need compasses. We can use pencils. We can use, if you guys have like buckets of I've used pencils. This sounds weird. Pencils don't go bad. I mean, it takes a long time for a pencil to go bad. What can happen with it? Well, the punky graphite mix might be not all that great, but it depends on the quality of the pencil. The company made it. Sometimes over the long haul, the glue that bonds together the 2 shells that come together, they fall apart. But who cares? You know what? Tape and more glue or whatever. But pencils keep being pencils no matter what. And for tactical operations, the pencil makes a lot more sense than a pen for 99.9% of what you're doing, okay? Pencils. Sounds weird, but you know what? We got medical personnel. We got all kinds of stuff that's going to be going on. If you have to write upside down, if you got to have to write on a wall, if you got to do something where you've got to make a notation and put it on whatever it is that's going on there, guess what? Pencils. They're really fantastic. Yeah, and you might want some clipboards. So there's all kinds of stuff. Make up an administrative pack. Here's an idea. Take a tote, and every time you find something like clipboards, slide rules. I'll tell you what, we really can use slide rules. I ain't counting on, although we have lots of calculators. I will say that. I got calculators for free. I mean, handheld, solar-powered, brand new, in the box. I think I got 50 in one lump. We'd be handing those out to personnel for, indirect fire. But a slide rule is something that doesn't require any batteries. We have our people are the thinkers. They've got the Prozac, Ritalin, shipwrecks. We can handle that. They can't. Hell, I got a slide rule was tossed out the other day by somebody. It's a 1929 in the box. No, probably used, but if it was, hardly at all. But it probably was some grandpas who, by the way, would have taken care of it because back in the day that was like slide rules were like a Texas Instruments calculator from 1975. You know what I mean? Remember when the calculators first came out? $189 back when $189 meant something, and it added, subtracted, multiplied, divided, and if you were lucky, it probably could get the square root on there. And maybe 1 or 2 other operations, but that was about it, formula combinations. But the real expensive ones, well, then you're talking, again, collegiate, and you weren't allowed to take them to class and all the other blah, blah, blah. But you could have a slide rule, which is kind of funny because really it kind of is a cheat, too, if you really know what you're doing. And I have to practice. I'm rusty with the slide rule, but I'll tell you what, I can get back on that bicycle real quick. So I collect every slide rule I see. And I disperse them many, many places. Slide rules are your friend. For all you mortar crewmen and all of you artillery personnel that are going to end up having to go to the basics because you're not going to want to use the digital, boom, 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 kind of handy when you got a better tool, plus pencils, plus notepads, and you can do your math quick. And, Yeah, make sure you drop it first round on target. Now, anyway, let me do a real quick check again. Do we have our guest with us? Because I don't want to leave her out. She might be, thinking Mark's just, going to be angry. If we have somebody that's a guest and you're a little late running in, always remember, just jump in there. Give me a hey, and we'll do just fine because we've got a mission. We've got to can't leave dead airspace. That's simple. Let me give you a little hint about something about mortars, especially if you get better at it. The biggest problem is getting better at it, okay? Mortars, like rifle grenades, can be fired direct line of sight, quick. Now, there's what's called a speed plate, but you don't see that many people actually using it, and that's something that's going to have to change. One of the things I've been trying to teach people, if you have a speed plate, what you need is a pipe driver. You need pipe driver handles. Everybody goes, what? Well, it's really cool to be able to use an 81-millimeter mortar at a speed dump. But here's a trick they don't show most people, kind of like World War II, where look at the cool ideas that some of these experienced guys came up with handling the Browning. What's interesting is all you have to do is add a couple of fixtures either side that are basically a couple of stirrups, long leg rest. But the best way to think about it is poor man's mortar, pile driver / a fence post driver. See those two handles on either side? You make a clamp. The clamps go top and bottom to hold that in place. All you need, what you're doing this for, is to create a standoff so that a team can actually move forward with the mortar tube. The base plate can be detached, or you actually doesn't have to be attached. There's a little trick there. But the speed plates actually look like a big, heavy butt, like cornbread pan. Okay, a round cornbread pan. And it's exactly what it says. You drop it, you put the ball station into place, you can pin or unpin, and then what you do is you would actually just eyeball, and if you get good at it, people learn real quick how to use equipment when you give them a chance to. But rather than this being the 60, any of the heavier mortars can be operated the same way. Now, are you going to get a guaranteed hit? Well, that depends on, again, how much you give your people leeway to train with the weapons that they have. But amazingly enough, the most common thing you always hear, they're always so proud they came along, and the guys trying to set up mortars, and the Apaches come along, and they nail everybody because they're having to set up the tripod there. No. You want to get rounds down range as quick as you move in the area, and you want to be spread out as quick as you can. So much so that you're even willing to, drop the mortar in place or pull the mortar along, drop it, leave somebody else leaves the base plate in another direction, come back to it and recover it as needed. You can dump rounds down range in a matter of seconds. And again, remember, here's the most common mistake made. The bigger the mortar, the larger the circumference, the radius of the kill ratio, the kill zone. And because of that, when people go, well, you are going to be right on. It's like, I don't have to be right on with a mortar round, son. And if I dump 3 rounds fast, a contact point / impact detonated, boom, boom, boom. In other words, fast I can throw in the tube, it's gone. Fast tube, gone. Fast tube, gone. Normally, I wouldn't even fire 3 rounds from one location. You fire 1, and then you advance, and you fire 1, and you adjust your fire accordingly. Now, your one team member, this is a trick. This is basically a trick when you're using it in the speed plate, something that they're not taught. Special Forces units do this all the time. They're just not supposed to let you know about it. Basically what you do, well, I don't know, maybe they don't. Maybe they just figure they can call from above all the time nowadays, and they don't do their own job. But basically, one guy's handling the base plate. The 2 men actually carry the tube. Now, each of the men carrying the tube carry a bag pack, a satchel pack, or both a combination of satchel packs and a back-mounted series of mortar rounds. You want to carry as much with you as you can. Remember, you're in motion. You can have additional or supplemental ammo bearers. One of the most common ways to do that in the airborne is, remember, every man carries 2 mortar rounds in the drop for the mortar team. Now, the mortar team has its own can. They got all the junk that goes with them. But traditionally, and again, this varies from school to school, decade to decade, traditionally, for instance, like the Grenada drop, 2 mortar rounds, 2 Laws rockets, 2 belts of ammunition for the saw gun, whether it be the very, very early XM 5.56s at that point. There were 1 or 2 or handful that got into service there. And the M60 / overlapping into the Mag 58 gun, whatever, it's 258, whatever the nomenclature is now, who cares? Let's put it this way, 308 squad gun. How's that sound? 7.62 by 51 NATO squad gun, just in case everybody goes, he doesn't know what he don't like, go for you, wait. Yeah, right, well, whatever. Anyway, most important here is that the team practice moving forward and dispersing during the move. Everybody goes, what? You don't stay tight or close? No, you don't. Actually, one of the big brag-ups with, any kind of overhead support or anything where there's indirect but observation is that they see you moving and they're going to drop something and they get y'all. Well, the idea behind this is that you actually move with the fire teams. The fire teams, of course, close the distance. And the mortar team, rather than going with the full base plate, which, by the way, the speed plate can be used, the cornbread pan, can be used extensively, but remember, it's a digger. It's going to keep digging in. Remember, when you fire a mortar, you have a response here. At the end of the tube is blocked, and so it gets hammered every time that a round is fired. Now, in a speed operation, it's not a big deal. It's almost like you're setting the gun, the mortar tube, every time that you set up a new fighting station. However, again, the guys get pretty good at this if you practice, at the very least, in simulation. PVC tube rounds are not difficult to make. The guys have come up with a pretty cool solution there. And use powder. Flour is the most common for impact, for identification of, time to target and, impact. So it's not difficult to develop a training round for this. In fact, it's already been done. The big thing is when you move is you disperse, you identify what your rally point's going to be, your next fire point's going to be. You advance, move, fire one, maybe two rounds at the discretion of the team leader. In many cases, you're just going to fire one round and advance. One round, advance. Does one round make a difference? Oh, I don't know. An 81-millimeter mortar round, what is the radius of destruction? And again, if you're disrupting because heavier, larger rounds offering greater firepower or greater disruption to your enemy's ranks, I would say it's worth it, but that's just crazy old Mark. What do I know? Except that the Special Forces teams I used to work with, and there were others that we worked with at different times other than just the 12th, these guys practiced this on a regular basis, and it was a neat little trick that, rolled back from the middle to the late end of Vietnam. And it worked exceptionally well, as a matter of fact. Usually you had coolies. I mean, sorry, but that's really what they were. You had Nung mercenary or you had Vietnamese personnel whose job it was to carry all those extra rounds you were going to need. Or, as is the case, if you talk to anybody who knows anything about building an army, remember we've talked about Special Forces, a 12-man A-team building a battalion. Understand that everybody's carrying junk forward for you, just like they always brag the Vietnamese did for themselves. Any army that's smart would be doing that. People who are lazy-ass will not. People who are dumbass will, of course, continue to be, that's French. They will continue to be very professional dumbasses. And we want them to stay that way, don't we? I want the lazy SOBs to stay just the way they are, but not with us. Okay, that's the thing. And by the way, there's great organizations out there where they can brag about how they do little or nothing and how they've sat on their ass and hired mamasans to do this and whatever to do that. The guys who are actually working for a living didn't, okay? And actually pretty well got through to the end of the war because those mamasans were the ones pacing out your compound and dropping rounds on you later on. Oh, that's right. That wasn't much of a brag, was it? Be that Vietnam or Iraq, okay? So anyway, the big thing about mortars, again, support. You move material forward. However, again, even your advanced support, and this should be true with medical, signal communications, evacuation of personnel. Guys, redistribution of material along your travel route and the progressive distribution or disbursement is especially critical. Example, I did a little video here a while back, more than a while back now, on armor resupply. I described the technique in Battle for the Republic and, in fact, more than once, trying to explain because I wanted to reemphasize how you supply in the field with extreme air threat. You totally change your policies, and, in fact, you don't have central depots or dumps. You can't afford that. You have some, if they're well dispersed, to the rear, but that are a little more concentrated. But your mission, right from the get-go, supply is going to be far more work than probably the regular infantry. Why? Because you're constantly going to have to map out and disperse material. There is no concentration of material in especially paraconventional and unconventional. In fact, just the reverse. Not just caching, but even when you do deploy, since you understand air supremacy or air superiority in any situation, and the fact that surprise is most common, that is expected. In fact, then it doesn't become surprise. The dispersion of your material is such that when you engage the enemy, you have the ability to draw on a number of different points. One that might have been engaged, you have a loss of material there and perhaps loss of manpower if people aren't paying attention or get caught unawares in very unusual situations. But otherwise, it's the job of the quartermaster and ordnance personnel, especially the ordnance straw boss, to ensure that resupplying units falling back to the rear or that you advance upon to resupply coordinate at the smallest unit level, the team level, with the individual armored vehicle. Mech units or light truck or assault units like that we've talked about, what you will do is disperse your supply along a route. And then at a given point with a dispersed column, you literally will stop. The dispersion is such that you actually have markers. It's dispersed camouflage in small caches along the roads, secondary trails, even off the road in particular key points where you have good overhead cover. Good overhead concealment, not cover. The leaves aren't going to slow many bullets down, or bombs for that matter. But the idea is to move in, and it's Mary Andretti at the Indianapolis 500 time. It's fast. The dump job is to evacuate spent cases, spent material, magazines, whatever it is that needs to be changed out, and belts, links, whatever returned, linked ammunition, individual large tank rounds, medium-sized ordnance, whatever it is that you've got that goes on board. It's a quick off and a quick on. Mostly it's thrown off, except to minimize damage if there's something that's more sensitive that's going to be reloaded, refabricated, or whatever. Beyond that, everything else has to be carefully handled. Remember, warheads on tank rounds are, you don't beat them around, kids. It's not like dropping a 30-06 or a small rifle round. It's not that you expect it to go off. That's not so much the concern, although beware. Remember, you don't know what kind of ordnance you're going to be handling. But the big thing is you don't want to damage the ordnance that might have special technology on board. Remember, a lot of your stuff, HESH, HEP, and heat, all of these are far more sophisticated than they have been in the past, though they were pretty sophisticated in World War II on both sides, German, American, and even Japanese, along with all the other allies and all the other Axis forces. They did build sophisticated. For this reason, again, with manhandling equipment, you need to coach your personnel on priority is to secure and protect the warhead, the nose cone, the active area, the active ordnance area. Again, not because I'm expecting it to go off, but because when the guy launches it downrange, we need it to do what it's supposed to do when it impacts on target, or to move to target. Remember, there's other technologies tied in with some of this stuff: tow rockets, tow twos. Hellfire is on the ground, not just in the air. Most people don't realize that. Hellfire systems, by the way, are nothing more than a very, very sophisticated next-generation tow. They just want to give it a different name. Same basic idea. So if you capture, for instance, you knock down or somebody splatters and turns into wreckage a Hellfire system, let me point out the onboard fire control system and the wing-mounted or fixture-mounted systems can be scavenged and can be modified to be used from an armored vehicle, the back of a truck, anything you want to. And here's what's funny. And I don't know what we're into right now with Hellfire. I qualified on Hellfire in 1975. Seriously, 1975 I qualified on Hellfire. Okay? This is the year 2020. Do you realize that makes this weapon system 45 years old? Well, that's why I always laugh when somebody, we got these new sophisticated super, like we've never seen before. You're living on 70s technology. Now, I guarantee it's upgraded. I guarantee it's got better micro circuitry and lightened up here, and there's got to be some improvements. But then why isn't it called, for instance, and I might have missed one, but they always the reference is always Hellfire, just like TOW or TOW 2. You notice I just mentioned that. They always just reference Hellfire. But is it Hellfire Mark 7 A3? Or Hellfire 8 Mark II, or, Mark 1, or blah, 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 asterisk, paragraph 2. Otherwise, you just keep referencing Hellfire. Well, if that's the case, I've got a picture of me in the qualification, the simulator and all of the other nonsense back in the day, qualifying and, doing all of the benchmark work because they wouldn't let you fire one. You didn't fire one, even if you were an operator. You know what, back then, guys, if they had law rockets, let me jog everybody's memory on this, the heady days of post-Vietnam, nobody fired anything. Nobody. Okay, contrary, here's how it worked. They did fire. In Germany, you had practice ranges for all your tow gunners where you actually got up into a little mock, Bad Hersfeld village, okay, a little village, Bad Hersfeld is the doom corridor, if you didn't know anything about that. Everybody remember Bad Hersfeld? Okay, well, not bad as in English, it's, Bad Hersfeld, okay? Location, full the gap, okay? Well, anyway, all of the weapon systems, I don't care what it was, M250 caliber. Oh, and by the way, remember that M60 I mentioned? They had indoor micro ranges where you practiced, remember, on the M60, the M2 Mod Deuce with another system. You had another one for the tow launcher. You had one for firing the laws. And these were all micro simulators. Now, the interesting one with the law, if you recall, the law, they had a micro launcher system, a micro training system that was a real rocket. It actually was an insert. How many? Now that you probably fired. You did not fire a Laws rocket, and I'll explain how that worked. One person did, okay? But everybody would first get all the training on the Laws. Then you would be, of course, given all your instruction on do's and don'ts. Then safety procedures would be reinforced. Then they would get you up to the range. Then they would take a dummy, and they would just allow you to handle it. Then they would go to phase 2, which is where you have the simulator/trainer round, loaded into the Laws rocket. You didn't open anything up. It was already loaded and ready to go. And you put it to your shoulder, and you fired a micro rocket about the size of your thumb downrange. A lot of you guys, myself included, collected many of those, and we found that those were reloadable. And by the way, if you did use them, they'd punch a hole through a piece of steel just like butter. So they're really cool to make little multi-rocket launchers from. Lou would never do that. Forgive me, I shouldn't say that. But anyway, you would fire, hopefully it would hit the steel target, it would go through, you get a hit, congratulations, pat on the head, squeeze on the rumpus, you're qualified with the M72 Laws rocket. And then you'd have a drawing. Sometimes it'd be a drawing for the group that was there. And this is if the commander was feeling good for the facility, you got 1 to 3 live Laws rockets to shoot. And they would do a paper in a hat, bucket with slips of paper, and you put your service number or your name on it, and you go in the bucket or in the helmet, and they'd stir it all up. Remember, piss pots, okay? We had Kevlar, but piss pots mostly. And so you had the steel pot, you mix it all up, and you pull the name out. Congratulations, Bob Schmidlap is going to fire the Laws rocket. That's who got to shoot a Laws rocket. What do you think they did with the tow launchers? Hell, they were lucky to see a shoot at the end of the year, one. Somebody tells you about how they fired, they were a tow operator. Yeah, they certainly were, but most of them, not until we got long in the tooth on the tow one, just like long in the tooth on the M72. When they got to the end where they said, we're never going to use the M72 Laws rocket, oh, God, everybody got to shoot one. They were giving everybody a chance to put those to their shoulder for a little while until they ran out because they were supposed to use them up or they'd have to demolish them. So they were actually allowed to fire them at the end of the service life of the M72, which, by the way, is now back in service. They can't all they're doing is reinventing the wheel and living off old engineer ideas because they can't come up with anything new that works. So the M72, which barely worked most of the time when it first came out, is now back in service for those of you who don't know that. TOWs were the same way. All of this was training simulation and training qualification was based on repetitive performance. So when everybody goes, well, you didn't fire, yeah, nobody did, especially the Hellfire. Nobody fired a Hellfire until they finally built the inventory up enough that they could figure they could kill enough Russian tanks for the Cold War, and then we got to shoot it, okay? And even then, here's how they did it, same way that they did the TOW. One guy out of however many people were in the class, there were 129 people in the one class that I was in. Of the 129, they drew a name out of a hat after we got all the training, and we did all the resimulation again with the Hellfire, and we put the crosshairs on, and we knocked her down there. We did a bunker, and we did, supposedly a flying, rotary wing aircraft. You could use them for point-to-point rotary. And by the way, we were training to use them in the Cobra 2s, which is what originally they intended to put them in. And then they advised everybody that yes, there would be a big change in that the latest and greatest, whichever aircraft they finally commit to, which the Apache was already in service, but they were talking about, remember, a couple of new choppers never showed up, did they, guys? Remember the Comanche? They reinvented the Comanche again. Guess what happened? Dumped it like flat as a pancake. Supposed to be the stealth helicopter of the future. Remember that? Just gone. Isn't it amazing? So we're still flying the Apache, which is 35, 40 years old. Works just fine, though. I mean, it works. It works until somebody shows up with equal and has more numbers, and then not so well. But that's the way battlefields work. You take your stuff out, it gets broken. They take their stuff out, it gets broken. Everybody breaks stuff, and hopefully you break more of theirs, but that doesn't always happen. Okay? So as far as qualification goes, and as far as most of the threat we're going to have, it works great when you're working on that 5-year-old blind kid and you got a real limited, tight theater where you can focus all your attention. When this thing kicks off, we got 48 lowers, and we got 2 outlying. I don't expect much to happen in Alaska, and I don't see much happening in Hawaii. Okay, sorry, guys. I know we got listeners in Hawaii. Alaska, everybody will find a reason not to actually pitch in. Just how it is. Okay, they're just going to sit out their dead ass and watch from a distance and eat popcorn until the bad guys show up, which could be government bad guys, and then they'll have to choose whether or not they're going to keep their guns. And with what's going on here right now, this is a major offensive coming up. This is why knowing all these other weapon systems is really critical and understanding how to use them. And that's why we start out with mortars, because mortars are the poor man's immediate artillery. In fact, here's a little demonstration of something. Up at Camp Grayling every year, they used to bring a Civil War unit, because you got to remember back when we were growing up in the 60s, especially 50s and 60s, Civil War reenactment, 100th year anniversary of the Civil War, Northern War of Aggression. And they used to have every equivalent weapon system on the line as a demonstration for the general meet and greet, and they wanted everybody to come in over to Grayling. Well, here's the thing. The Colstrom mortar was the counterpart to the standard 81 millimeter mortar we have right now. They Colstrom in a number of different sizes, but they basically went with what would be the equivalent to a platoon mortar, okay, a Colstrom platoon mortar. Do you know that every time they demonstrated the 81s side by side, the Colstrom mortars at intermediate range always hit their target first? The crews were sidebar crews. I mean, after all, they were just Civil War reenactors. But every time they fired, the guardsmen who were firing their mortars, they didn't fire those mortars at all. Even when they were in an active unit, you got to remember the period of time, looking through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Other than the fact we've been in a war where they could dump lots of rounds down range and actually catch up a little bit, some people did. Remember, not everybody.
Hey, Mark.
The biggest problem they had is the guys that had more time on that Colstrom mortar did a better job of putting round after round right on target and in a wastebasket every time. Go ahead, caller, jump in there. We're talking 1,200 yards to 3,000 yards, by the way. Go ahead.
I'm kind of curious about what your thoughts were as far as everything that's going on over the weekend with the assassination there. It seems as though, and someone has presented the idea that he could have, like in the movie 13 Days, where they back-channeled the peace broker in Cuba and the missile war crisis there. You think Trump is smart enough to back-channel something before it and saying, okay, maybe the peace process is coming along much to the liking of Iran? It's a far out crazy kind of notion, but maybe they're ready for peace. Maybe they're ready to say, hey, maybe.
Well, I will say this. Number one, you notice how a bunch of people, it's always the armchair chicken hawks, are telling us you and I all need to go to war. Okay, number one. That was the big thing. As soon as they did this assassination, let's put it this way. This was an assassination because they needed to get something going. And I personally believe, and I'm going to tell you seriously, I think they did this because of Virginia. The same people that are stirring the pot over there, the Israelis, are running the gun confiscation here in the United States. So it's fascinating to me. There was nothing truly brewing on the horizon with Iran. Nothing. I don't believe for a minute any of their BS about the embassy attacks. In that if they were the same old protests that they've had over and over again, people jumping and screaming and hollering and thrashing, and they do it periodically. In fact, the guys that have served over there in the green zone know that some of the protests are like clockwork, okay? They call it the green zone. It's the biggest stinking spy network operation on the planet that we're operating in a country that we broke, that used to be our ally, that we screwed the hind end, so that we now have to say, oh, my God, what did we do? Iran. Well, it used to be, hold on, let me munch an apple here. Don't we have Iraq there? Yeah, we do. Aren't they our friends? Yeah, big army. Why don't we just point them at them? Yep, that's a good idea. What's your point? Wow, when Saddam Hussein was there, he attacked the only people that attacked us as terrorists for the last 30 years. Iraq never attacked us. You know what? Saddam Hussein attacked the Saudi princes in Kuwait, and those are the people that attacked us on 9/11. And you know what, caller? Think about this. Who just shot up one of our airports, our air bases down there? What was that? Were those Iranians? No. Were they Iraqis? No. Who were those mad shooters down there in Florida? Who were they again? Those crazy town guys. He killed, they say it was one, but there's 200 of them that he deported. What country were they from, caller? What country?
No clue.
Saudi Arabia. Yeah, Nancy's just saying they just deported 805 more Saudi Arabians. Now, my problem here is they keep bringing up these countries, which, by the way, everybody starts frothing at the mouth about bombing Iran. Okay, I mentioned this. Remember Frogface, who always used to wake up, Obama every morning? She bragged that every morning she was there to, grab him by his wiener and pull him down the hallway. Remember who that was?
She-male. Michelle.
No, not Michelle. Michelle's there too, but that's the one who's in the bedroom to make sure that she, ties him up and does dirty things to him. Remember? Little dark-haired woman, looked like a frog. She's from Chicago, Stan. Chicago. Remember her name?
I don't remember her name. She worked for Hillary.
I remember because I'm describing her. Remember, she got the Coke bottle glasses, and she bragged that she virtually was running Obama. Well, everybody goes, well, she's Iranian. Yeah, she's an Iranian what? Well, she's an Iranian blah, 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 blah. What did you say? Well, she's Iranian. Look, these guys have Iranians next to them. She's an Iranian Jew.
Valerie Jarrett.
Yeah, Valerie Jarrett. Well, no, I understand. I know her name. I'm just saying, I'm trying to get everybody's brain juices flowing here.
I'm trying to help.
No,
I didn't want him to fail the test.
No, I don't care who calls it. That's good. I was hoping somebody would jump in because I already know who it is. I was just looking at something the other day because they're doing this. Here, let me give you an example of propaganda. First caller, and for all at Phyllis too. There's a bunch of BS on Facebook, and they got this picture. Obama always had an Iranian next to him, and there's an Iranian next to Hillary, and it's like, yeah, and they're both Jews. What's your point? See, that's the part that everybody forgets. Second largest Jewish population in the Middle East, not in Egypt. Although Saudi Arabia is rife with them, and they got a bunch of them that are fake Arabs and fake Muslims that are reality Jewish. Like I said, Osama bin Laden, his mother's Jewish. Therefore, he's Jewish, okay? Period. Any other argument's irrelevant. But the thing is that Valerie Jarrett, well, the frog faces, like I said, she bragged that she was right there hanging on to his wiener when he first got up, and she took him to the bedroom where Michael took over. Right, at the end of the day, she was right there. She was leading him around by a chain and his wiener every day. Well, guess what? She's a Jewish. When everybody brings this up, oh, you mean that Jewish woman that was next to Obama? Because that's what she is. She's an Iranian Jew. And I would point out again, Iran-Contra. 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 They always mention Iran-Contra, but they never tell you about the grease that lubricated the whole thing, the Jewish arms trade and the Jewish drug trade. Because how did we connect with Iran back in the day? Through the Jews. They went to Israel. The Israelis got hold of their Jewish counterparts in Iran, which, by the way, they tell you, oh, we hate you this. Yeah, but it's strange. They have this love-hate affair. And they went right to their buddies in Iran, who, by the way, All these Jews do business every day, and they aren't dead. Notice how they play this scam with America the stupid? We hate Iranistan. We hate Iranistan. And Israel, yeah, the Israelis hate Iranistan too. How many Jewish cousins do you have in Iran? What? How many Jewish cousins do you have in Iran? Oh, you don't need to know about that. What do you mean I don't need to know about that? I'd be curious. How many Jewish cousins do you have in Iran? Oh, that's not relevant. Send more money. We gotta. And so they froth at the mouth back and forth. And there is a game played because the ones they're killing are the goy. Okay, these guys like the one that just was, bushwhacked the other day was murdered. And I think it was murdered for a very different reason. It has nothing to do with the embassy garbage. It has to do with some other, somebody didn't pay somebody, whatever. It's a lie. But I also think that they figured they needed to stir the pot because, caller, you know about Virginia, right?
Yes.
Phyllis, you know about Virginia, right? Mark knows about Virginia. And guess what? A whole lot of other Americans know, too, that in 2 days, the communists take over in Virginia, period.
Hey, Mark.
So which is more
what
important?
about Virginia?
Yeah. Virginia. Who? Do we have a state named after that or something? Is that a girlfriend? What?
Mark,
Go ahead.
one point here. Yeah, I've been bothered about this anti-Semitic crap, and the ACLU or whoever is actually identifying what that is. They're identifying, well, it actually is more people. It's like the Palestinians are involved, the Iranians, all the people that are actually in the northern part of Africa are basically Semitic.
Right.
So
that's why I call it semanticism, because
so it's nonsense.
Yeah.
But anyway, so sorry, just a little side thing.
It's spreading like Hellenism did during Alexandria time.
Well, an interesting twist. You look up what I've said before about the Young Turk era. The Young Turks were Jews in Turkey. Okay, remember what happened here about 4 years ago? They were running all these protests, and if you'll notice, it just fell off the map. If you pay attention, it was all the Young Turk imagery, and it only came up when the Turks weren't towing the Jewish line. And all of a sudden, all the banners, if you look at the dates, I mentioned this when it was happening, look at the dates, look at the names, take a look at what they were yapping. Well, it was the Jews that killed the Christian Armenians. It was the Jewish Young Turks that did all the atrocities, just like they did later on when they were openly more communist in just north of there in Georgia and the Ukraine and Russia. And in fact, if you look at Armenia, it was a vision of things to come with the Jews using their third-party goyim to go in, round up a bunch of Christians, death march them, rape the women, crucify the women. You ever see the pictures where they had the women, on the crosses for, a good 3-4 miles, where they took all of the young girls, women, teenage women or 20-year-old women, and they were just nailing them to the crosses there and just let them, sit out in the sun to bleach. So, they eventually died. I don't think they bothered taking them down. They wouldn't waste the trees. The wood's worth money when you're in these places. So the crosses won't stay there for very long. I'm sure they were building material or something, or maybe just used for other Christians later. But that's the group, if you want to understand. That's the first part of what is the more modern variants where you can get a cookie-cutter pattern of repeat over and over again what they're going to try to do here. They are in motion to do it right now. I'm telling you guys, this showed Trump's real colors. His job was, the Oi boys told him, you got to distract everybody because we're not going to get caught. We're not going to get caught flat-footed. Well, has anybody heard Trump say anything about the gun confiscations? About the proposed whatever? Any comment at all? Did anybody hear anything from this federal government? Nothing. Not a word. What about those beautiful, 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 beautiful patriot babies and American babies that are around the gun owners, and how wonderful, wonderful, wonderful it is, and how they need to be protected? No, there's nothing like that. They've been totally quiet, and they're going to be quiet because they're part of the agenda. The only thing that Trump has done, he was told to create an incident overseas. The Pentagram will more than oblige, and the rest is history. And who knows if we even did the whack? I'd be willing to bet the Israelis did it anyway. The Israelis have a brass ring, and it's rotten. It's green where it's going through his wiener. And they're pulling Trump around by the wiener anywhere they want. So they told him this is what they want, and they need it now because I will remind everybody again, our state is where they spilled the beans. Our Attorney General here in Michigan flat out said this is a major multi-state offensive from the governor's conference, that they met with the governors, they met with the attorney generals of all the states, and they're planning on a massive gun confiscation, state by state, in different states, all over the country simultaneously. We've even got the same garbage going right now that they've got in Virginia. We've got the first 6. Now, they've already said they got a whole string of them for here. How much of them are going to go through? I don't know. We got a lesbian queers a $3 bill, 26-sex guppy that's the attorney general, and that faggoty piece of trash is, of course, pumping the agenda that you're seeing where? In California, Oregon, Washington State, Virginia, New York where it's already done, New York where it's already done, New York where it's already done. New York is not having to pass anything. They already passed everything.
New Jersey.
Yes, and New Jersey, and don't forget Connecticut. And then these other states have all smattered. We now have the other list that's come up with West Virginia, Georgia, Alabama. There's holes. There's big holes in this, by the way, but I've said this before. That's nice, but what are we going to do? Retreat to the center of the country, let them take the borders, and then pretty well they invade with whatever they want or bring their buddies in? Because that's, if you take a look and map this out, that's where this is headed. Yeah, we've got Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma's doing different. Iowa's queer as a $3 bill, and so is Nebraska for a whole bunch of the garbage there. The faggoty boys and the communists are big time in both of those states. Colorado is a mixed bag. Okay,
Iowa, you can tell, is definitely coerced in bad ways because back when Ron Paul was running, I mean, they just completely ignored him, pushed him aside. I mean, this is supposed to be a Midwestern, Republican, traditional values type state. And you would think that they would go for something like Ron Paul, but they just completely ignored him and pushed him aside when they were doing their straw polls. Yep. I still remember that today. Okay.
Yeah. Well, again, I had a conversation here. It's been, 4 days? Well, it was the end of last week, actually. No, wait a minute. Yeah, Friday. It was Friday. Well, in conjunction with other people who are talking there, like I said, there's people I haven't seen since the Ron Paul fiasco. They came out for that a little bit, and then when it was obvious that he was going to get pissed on, they just said, well, that's it. Next thing when you see me next, we'll be shooting their ass. And there's a lot of people out there that are like that. To the other side, well, you have all these Trumpsters that blurt constantly, well, who are you going to vote for otherwise? The same garbage we heard back, and they're just like the Bushites. Well, he's bad, but he's been doing bad stuff, but he's better than blah blah blah. It's like they're both bad, and they're that lesser evil is evil. And the problem is it's showing its true face. And like I said, this whole garbage with the Middle East cranking up like this and this window of activity, you're 2 days away from the communists taking Virginia, which everybody, if you heard Virginia, they'd say conservative. Really? We had Charlottesville with the faggoty boys there and all the Antifa and the crap going on. And, of course, look what those judges did. They persecuted that guy. I've looked at that case. At the very best, they could have gotten, manslaughter out of the guy, and they couldn't even really justify that because it was a panic situation. People were being attacked left and right. But you look at the injustice system, especially where the commies have their footprint, and the brain is turned off. You have no defense. You're automatically guilty until proven innocent, which is exactly what they did with that situation with Charlottesville. Well, guess what? That's right there. That's Virginia. Now, a lot of people no, go ahead. Don't let me keep yapping. Go ahead, please.
No, go ahead, finish your sentence. A lot of people.
Well, more people out there are waking up, but I would, they are awake. But I would point out all these people that are saying they're awake now were the ones who let the commies come in big force and were sitting on their dead ass over and over and over again. Now all of a sudden it looks like the old pucker factor has gone up and they finally are, scrambling. But there's no election on the horizon. There's none. There's no solution here. There's no paper-pushing, administrative, I can bail out and cop-out solution on the horizon for these people. You see? Go ahead.
Just 2 points here. One, I still believe that Trump became president because it was a way to play the Trump card on the United States.
Yep.
So it was
actually chuckling about that. Yeah.
And then the other thing is that Pompeo, today in the newspaper, I was reading that Pompeo said that if these people in Iraq, if they go after the United States because they killed that guy, that then they're going to go ahead and they're going to retaliate. They're going to kill more people. Well, Pompeo is an idiot, so.
Well, he's working for the Israelis. He's not ours. He's not. All these people Trump brought in. This is where we're going to get bit in the ass, because all these turds that Trump brought in were all neocons that were around with either the Clintons or the Bushes and overlapped even into Bummer. And all of a sudden they're all back. He was supposed to change everything, and we're right back to the same stinking toilet. Isn't it amazing? And the Trump hatters are like, oh yeah. It's like, really? I told you this 3 years ago. They could take these stooges and flip them completely upside down, and that's exactly where we are. Weren't we all agreeing that we were going to get out of the Middle East?
Yeah, we wanted to get out of the Middle East. We wanted to get out of Iraq. We wanted to get we wanted to get all that stuff going. And Trump said he was going to do it. And so far, it ain't happened. Like, well, Hillary's still not in jail either.
In fact,
she's actually going to Ireland. So
we're pissing around in Syria where we have no business. Period. I don't care what anybody says. And we have no business. In fact, should have been, again, the old story, in and out with Iraq. No, we weren't. We're still pissing around there. And again, if we hadn't pissed around there at all, the Iraqis would have to deal with this, not us.
And
remember,
step up the numbers, 3,000.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, caller. Please jump in there.
Just a quick note. He's stepping up the numbers 3,000.
Right. Well, and again, who knows clandestinely. And by the way, as one of our friends said, when they talked about how, this guy killed American. Well, what kind of Americans? Were they mercenaries? Were they contractors working for the Israelis? Were they Israelis and you're claiming they're Americans? Again, at Abu Ghraib, people came in with no rank, no insignia, and raped little kids in front of their parents. Who were those people? They were Israelis. He got off on that. Pedos, especially in uniform, got a chance to do the dirty deed and play games and even filmed it, remember? There's thousands of hours of footage that a senator flat out said, we can't show the American people. They videotaped it. Anybody? I'm jogging everybody's memory about Abu Ghraib because that's what you get out of this garbage. But here's the thing. They plan on doing that here. This is why I don't care. Other than we're talking about it only in perspective that understand he's deflecting us over there because Virginia, West Virginia, Georgia, Alabama, and a whole bunch of other parts of the country, which nobody in the controlled press is talking about, which should tell you something. You're looking at a significant virtual invasive species change where these creatures are rabid. The frothing nutcase communist is what they're pushing in there. And Antifa doesn't get touched for that reason.
Hey, Mark.
They get away with murder. Oh, by the way, we're at the top. We're going to take a break here for a minute. But go ahead, Phyllis, real quick.
2 points. One, George Soros came in, and he's been buying up the attorney generals. In Virginia, I can wait till after the break.
Tell you what, let's do this, guys. We're going to close on the run. I will come here. There we go. I hugged it, but only the fact that I gave it over that diversion you are trying to ignore is back. Make no mistake about it. All the shifting around are doing now is away from the diversion of the media. Take your brain all the way over to the other side of the world. Tell them that right here, America. This is the battleground. We fight for our country. Just calm down. By the way, I want to get the fellows who look like they're sorry ours might not. You know what we're talking about. All we really is the dumb and the other parts too. We'll be back right here in a few minutes.
Oh no, we're still in intermission. I'll do something about that. All right. Mark, good try. You're absolutely right.
Has heard the poem.
Donald's not doing anything about the state's issues. He's not doing anything about it. And I understand that. He's fighting for the states, but you can't do two things at once. And so it's up to Emmett Hanger and Klein and other people to step up and do their part with Donald within the states. And so the issue right now is it's being communicated to the highest levels from the Virginia Republicans that let them. You guys can do all the resolutions you want in support of a federal constitutional amendment. Knock yourselves out. We don't care. We'll vote against it. Let's do the business of the state. But if they go to do laws as opposed to resolutions, their only option is to walk out and say they don't have a quorum. So they won't sit. They'll just leave. And we'll protect them. National Guard or the Virginia Guard's not going to come and grab the Virginia congressmen and drag them in there and make them against their will, sit through laws being passed. They have no obligation to create the quorum if the other side is acting in bad faith. So that's but there is the point, man. Donald Trump tells the story about the snake, and is he the snake? Because we all look at it as, from who do we think is a snake and project that out from Donald to his story, and that's why he does it. It's nebulous, but it could be a where you're actually talking about yourself and warning the people who are following you or dealing with you that you're a snake, right? So here you go.
Who has heard the poem called The Snake? So I have it. Does anybody want to hear it again? You sure? Are you sure?
Chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm?
Okay. So let's dedicate this to General Kelly, the Border Patrol, and the ICE agents for doing such an incredible job. All right? This was written by Al Wilson a long time ago. And I thought of it having to do with our borders and people coming in. And we know what we're going to have. We're going to have problems. We have to very, very carefully vet. We have to be smart. We have to be vigilant. So here it is, the snake. It's called The Snake. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. The border. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed that vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, oh heavens, you would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I have saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, heavens why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
They've sworn.
If you haven't...
Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear, be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great Republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside to dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And less than 2 days to full Soviet takeover of the administrative arm of the state. Well, no, wait a minute. It'll be the Virginia Soviet democracy, Soviet socialist democracy. That would make it an SSD. Yes, that is right. I'm sorry. It will be Virginia SSD, as you would say, America. Very good. You guys will be doing fine. Waving red banners. Everybody who's stepping in Capitol building, they will have little, like, red square for the crazy communist pedophiles, except they will be wearing jackboots, but they will be naked and carrying rainbow flags. And they will be goose-stepping with their dangly parts dangling in between their legs, going up and down and up. Stepping towards straight away. Yes, I see this happening. This will be very glorious. They will call it Pink Flag Square instead of Red Square. They will have, of course, the girly boys and the female guppies. I think sex number 21, not sex number 28. Now, don't confuse that there. But they will have a sex number 21 as opposed to sex number 3, 5, or 6. They will be, of course, rah-rahing to this side, and they will be going, blue, blue, blue. This is America, and it's everything I just referenced is real. That's your America. And by the way, that's Virginia. Oh, by the way, they haven't the Red Square yet, but everything else I described is in the America that you said you weren't going to let happen. Just a heads up. We're all in the same boat. Ain't no sense in running because you'll only die tired. So you might as well turn, fix bayonets, and shish kebab the son of a bugger and start butt stroking. Remember, parry, thrust, recover, and butt stroke. I love that butt stroke word. Anyway, I ain't talking about the poofta kind either, okay? So anyway, for everybody out there, good afternoon. This is the second hour of the Afternoon Intelligence Report. I'm Mark Kornke, one day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters on and behind the lines in occupied territories northeast, east, southeast, and south. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to us on LibertyTreeRadio.4MG.com, IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.com, and Memoriam, and we're on AM and FM microstations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies, east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in Lower 49, which includes the great state of Jefferson and CONUS, along with the states, the territories. It is 6:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today's date's Monday. It is the 6th of January. It is the 12th year of open and obvious Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K, 2020, Old Earth calendar, 2020. The communists are on the march and ready to move, and, of course, supposed to catch us flat-footed. We're not going to have a clue because Trump's got us all looking overseas. Shiny. I like one of our friends said, shaking the shiny keys. Yes, thank you, Chuck. You're right. Yes. Shaking the shiny keys. Shaking the bush, boss. Shaking the bush. Over here. Look over here. Remember what he was doing? Remember Cool Hand Luke? When he was shaking the bush. Remember? And everybody's attention was supposed to be shaking that bush. Remember how he had that string dragged way out, that line, piece of rag, piece of cloth, and he had it all wrapped around his body? And he's shaking the bush, boss, shaking the bush. And he was already good 100 yards away, or 100 feet away. And of course, shaking the bush, say that one more time, and then start making feet. Run like hell. Well, same is true what's going on here. Shiny things. I call it, again, dazzle monkeys. We have dazzle monkeys in America. The other way maybe to describe it is like this. You remember when Hillary had that little bizarre thing when they dropped all the balloons and she went, oh, shiny objects? That's how I picture all these Trump people right now. Shiny object. I ran. Shut up. Meanwhile, if you try to tell them about what's going on in Virginia, it's, no, because the Donald hasn't told us. Yes, that's our point. We've been able to find out everything necessary about what's going on in Virginia, and nobody in the all of the fake conservative commentators, not a word. All the fake plastic politicians, not a word. The ones who are genuine might actually be saying something. But you know who it really is that's saying something right now? Are the people from Virginia. And in fact, here's what's fun. All those people know if you press them, it's like, well, did you get a call from the White House and from Washington and how they're all right there to back you 100%? They tell you all about how this is wrong? Did the White House call and tell you? Didn't call? Trumpsters! Where are they? Well, I mean, these people in many cases are. Oh, we're near the Trump. No. And by the way, when somebody says from Virginia, oh, don't worry, we got this. Oh, you mean like the election? You mean like the way you got this where all the communists are coming in? Is that the got this part? You know how stupid that sounds? There's some people doing that because they're, of course, working for the other side. They're doing the, oh, you guys, don't worry. Everybody go back to sleep. We got that. We're going to take care of it. Everything will be fine. Just go back to sleep and go brain dead. Everything's fine. No, that's not how it works. In fact, again, I would point out it's actually a tit-for-tat thing. Everybody that can needs to pitch in. But again, Virginia is going to have to deal with this. Virginia, after all, created it. But for anybody who says, you guys, all you other guys, you don't need to participate in what's going on, they're trying to be politically correct. Now, I warned you about this. The closer you get to the date, the greater the epiphany about this being a real-life event, and it's lethal. And a bunch of the turds are going to go, we're going to defecate their spine out their bunghole. You're going to hear it like a meat xylophone. They're going to actually just go brain fart. And what you'll hear, though, is this. Well, you guys don't need to be in Virginia. Virginia will take care of it. Yeah, right. Well, let me ask you something. What was your excuse for supposedly this being, the election going the way it is? Well, Bloomberg and Soros spent millions of dollars. Oh, is Mr. Bloomberg from your state? Well, no. Is Mr. Soros from Virginia? Is Bloomberg from Virginia? Yes or no? No. Is Soros from Virginia? No. Well, it seems that the other side has a whole lot of outside the state help. So who's the dumbass that thinks you couldn't use some help from the rest of the country to counter these turds that are a minority, and they're always Jewish, that seem to be pissing in your pool right now? How would you be? The only person who would be doing that is someone trying to retard the campaign to try and buy more time for Bloomberg and Soros and the commies, the pedos that are in the communist regime coming up. Don't you think? The other side had no problem bringing it's billions, but billions overall the campaign. But in this case with Virginia, hundreds of millions of dollars is what everybody's quoting. Well, guess what? Sounds like you need some help from outside the state because you obviously didn't get your act together inside the state, too.
Hey, Mark.
Go ahead, caller. Jump in there.
It's Phyllis. Do you know anything about Oath Keepers coming into Virginia, and they're going to try to organize militias or something? They're going to try.
Well, everybody has. There's different groups. I just shipped out a couple of weeks ago a whole pile of stuff. When we knew this was coming. We've got for instance, 2nd Virginia Dragoons. That's a mech unit. A couple of medical units I've spoken with. I actually have talked in Virginia, West Virginia extensively. The straight northern end of Virginia has got a massive militia element that's already in place. And there's different tiers. There's the politically correct, I got to be an oath keeper so that I can't say that I'm militia because if I use the word militia, it's bad. But now if you use oath keeper, it's bad. So what do you do now? It's like the 3%er thing. Well, we won't call ourselves militia. We'll call ourselves 3%ers. Oh, well, now they're crucifying 3%ers. Well, we're going to change your product name? Because changing your product name didn't do any good before. See, that's the problem with this. So the Oath Keeper people are out there, but the Oath Keepers are already tied into the cops. The cops are going to make sure that it's cop-oriented so that they can plug the cop thing back in and we all surrender our guns to them instead of surrendering them to the other guys. And then we all continue to perpetuate the police state. See, that's the problem I have with this. And it's happened over and over again. That's the only thing about Oath Keepers. Consistently, it's like, well, we got to support the cops. Really? So when the same cops come to your door and kick the door, and what are you supposed to do? No answer. Well, and then they blurt out, well, they got so much power. Only because you're worshiping them, which happens with all these different groups. You'll find the different elements inside it that will start that, and it's always the same routine. Whenever they do the cop thing, and you ask them the common sense question, okay, well, the communists are now coming into power. Well, what are you going to do now? Well, now they're talking about this militia. Okay, Phyllis, let me ask you something. Is it wise to wait till the last minute to organize?
I would suggest not. But that's me.
You might be scrambling and grabbing ass trying to get stuff done at the last minute and not quite get everything done the way it should be, where as if you were, like I've said a million times on this program for decades, militia, and piss on all the other titles they've come up with, it's all militia, okay? The other terms are purely to try and desperately be politically correct. It's like back when the survivalist movement was in place. Oh, I'm not a survivalist. I'm a prepper. Okay, go look at go do a search for preppers and look at the propaganda against being a prepper, and then go back and look at when everybody called themselves survivalists, and look at the propaganda, and it's identical. And it's amazing. And you even hear this right now from a lot of dunderheads that are younger, and I'm going to say that. Well, the militia back in the 90s was bad, but our militia is good. Oh, shut up, you dunderhead. Idiot sticks like that, you just wish you could grab through. Well, I'm on a keyboard here. I just wish they were in front of me so I could just punch them. Okay, I know you're stupid. Maybe you're just a stupid puppy and won't do me any good to even talk to you. But, the idiocy, and it comes down to this, what I've said a million times. Okay, when you talk to a Trumper, you ask them, the control press isn't lying about Donald Trump. Do that. And what do they say? No, the control press is always lying about Donald Trump. They don't speak because they're lying all the time, blah, blah, blah. Okay, thank you. So tell me about the militia. Oh, the militia's bad. Who told you about the militia? Well, I saw it on ABC or NBC or CBS. Now let's back up here. They're lying about Donald Trump. Yeah, and everything they do, they're lying about Donald. Yeah. So you're telling me that this is the first time they've ever done this, and maybe you should plug your brain in and get it out of low gear reverse and maybe think a little bit and ask yourself, don't you think they were lying before about the other stuff? Seriously, don't be kind to these people, because you're either going to be, you have to slap them now. Everybody's going, oh, we got to baby feed them and this. No, you know what? Too late for that. In a day and a half, the Soviet hammer and sickle is going to get a chance to put its boot down on Virginia. Not maybe, not kind of, not theoretically. Everybody sat on their dead ass in one form or another, and Virginia, we'll be talking about Virginia like we're talking about California. It won't be around that long. I mean, before things get worse still. But we'll be yapping about, stinking Virginia, blah, 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 if they just keep peddling the way they're peddling right now. And I said weeks ago even, it's like, you know what, you got so much time to really, there are things you can do, but you have to play straw boss, and everybody wants to be the fleet admiral, okay? Whereas you don't need fleet admirals, you don't need grand poobahs, you don't need generals. What you need are straw bosses right now. You need people who are not going to be worrying about rank, regalia, or any kind of proof, and instead are concerned with the idea, what do I need to fight a war? What do I need to fight a war? And I've said a million times, logistics, 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 logistics. Because your enemy calculates all of their war waging, and I don't care what it is, on logistics. Everything. The rifle you're holding right now, if you're a militia person right now, if you're a man or a woman and you bought a gun, part of the math formula, the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Defense, any foreign intelligence operative, there is a lifespan to your weapon in constant combat. It is approximately 2 years. Now, that's if it's a standard service rifle. Your weapon could be superior, and in fact probably is, as I've tried to explain to everybody for years now. You don't have the punk-a-junk low-contractor gun, okay? Your weapon is built to the best standard you can establish, but they count on the idea that none of you bought spare parts, which is why I always have had the religion, and I've tried to repeat it so everybody should be able to know the mantra, firing pin, extractor, ejector, and then all the springs you can. Why? Because I plan on passing it down to the next generation. Or if I'm dying, I'll hold the rifle up out of the mud long enough so that you can grab it so you can keep using it. But everything is a math formula. Everything comes down to math. How much food do you have on the shelf? If right now everybody knew that in a day and a half the enemy has said they're coming to go to war against the Virginian people. The communists have declared themselves. You can call it something else. The panty waist desperately will, because the panty waist always will. But they're waging war. You're still trying to play four-dimensional Parcheesi, man, because Trump said we're playing four-dimensional Parcheesi. Trump's playing four-dimensional Parcheesi against a guy I think he's got a battle axe or something. Anyway, that's not yeah, that doesn't work too well. You see? So what it comes down to is the amount of time that we have every minute should be focused on what can we do. I mean, Virginia, first of all. Virginia is so far behind the curve with a bunch of the FUDs especially, because they're still of the opinion that they're just going to kind of stand there and look so impressive that the other side is going to go, oh, well, that would be true. But if anybody pulls the trigger, throw that all out the window. Now what are you going to do? And a lot of these Fudleys, and that's the only way their attitude is that they'll be so awe-inspired by our little red balls, and it's like our little red badges on our coats. Not really. You're talking communists. These people, they are Fruit Loops. That's one of the things we talk about. Everybody keeps asking me, it's like, you don't understand the arrogance of insanity. You're dealing with faggots. You're dealing with pedos. You're dealing with Fruit Loops who've been told they can march down America's street bare-ass naked with leather boots on and a rainbow flag, and you can do nothing about it. Well, if they're that arrogant, they'll run around in their birthday suit in parades all over this country. And now, in the last 2 years, what have they had out there? They've had 9-year-old kids out there with mouths that sound like Barnacle Bill the Sailor. And I didn't hear about anybody dying out there, did you? I didn't hear about any crack of a gun rifle shot, those suckers being blown out of their boots for doing that to a kid. No. So why would the other side think that they can't get away with a gun grab? Seriously, why not? That's the part nobody wants to wrap their brain around, Phyllis. Nobody. And even the ones like, go ahead, jump in there.
I don't know if your guest is here yet or not, but real quick, that there's a possibility too when they go to do that rally, because we don't really. I'm sure there's somebody out there. There's some people that know about this Virginia Citizen Defense League that supposedly or has organized this march or this rally.
It wasn't even supposed to be. Remember what they said now? They kind of requalified themselves again. They didn't expect even 1,000 people to show up. I don't know what was in their brain, but they originally said that they were going to be less than they had to figure less than 1,000 because they know the rules. If in Richmond 1,000 people or more show up, they're going to shut the building down, so nobody's going to talk to anybody. I mean, go ahead.
Well, they won't be there anyway, right? Because it's Martin Luther King Day. I haven't had a qualifier on that yet. Even I've asked people. I've even sent messages out. I said, "Hey, if it's Martin Luther King Day, are they going to be in their office?" Good. There is a possibility. There is a possibility too. I don't know if you have to have a permission, like a what do they call those? You have to make an application to do your rally. I don't know if you have to do that.
A permit, right? A permit. Yeah.
Right, a permit. I don't know if you have to have a permit at the Virginia Capitol, but I went and looked in Richmond. I tried to look it up. I tried to see if you could do that. I couldn't really get any information that much because I was curious as to who in Virginia, who all has applied for a permit for that particular day. My thought process would be, has Antifa or one of those organizations applied as well? Or could the government just decide that these people, like Carl was saying, that all of a sudden these people are showing up, they're forming a militia, and he wasn't sure who they were because he had never really seen them before? Is it a possibility that there could be those people show up, people from Antifa, they start a little battle with each other, and then it's blamed on the militia people, and you know what I mean? And that really does
I take responsibility. If I were them, yeah, we did. You want to stop them in their tracks instead of all this wussy one around where it's like I don't know. Oh yeah, we did. Hell yeah. In fact, did we miss anybody? See, I'm to the point where it does. Okay, the trying to micro sort this is going to do us no good. No matter what you do, if you're going to decide to have a protest in an enemy piece of real estate where you've already had the rabid communists, it's like saying you're going to Portland and you're not expecting confrontation. And there is nothing you can do to fix it, because if you try not to be confrontational, you know what you get out of that one? If you're going to be willing to do that, then pull up all the pictures of the grandpa in the wheelchair on the ground, the wheelchair sideways, him screaming. They hit him with cayenne pepper spray. The girl with the eggs all over her face and the rocks in her head. The 5 girls, crushed up against the fence that were being beat on by 70 or 80 guys my size. Well, all those fools should have been mowed down with a rifle, by my attitude. Because who did they pick? They picked the 90-pound, 100-pound college girls. What are they doing? Beating them, hitting them with sticks, hitting them with chains. That's what you're going to get. So what would you expect? I mean, you're not going to. It's just that's the way it's been happening. So why would you not expect it to happen no matter what? Now you either pick a direction on this. At some point, like I said, you're going to have to put your foot down, and that means that you're going to have to return the force with force. But if you do that, well, then what happens? It'll show you who the enemy is, and it's going to be the cops. So all those cops, they said, "Oh, we're with you guys," or whatever. All of a sudden, when they're told to beat down patriots and beat down Grandma and Grandpa and beat down the guys that are protecting Grandma and Grandpa, they all will have seen what happened. Just like what happened in Portland when those guys defend, after they came in, they come in with the chains, they try to stab people, then people turn around and beat them down, and it's like, oh, how dare you protect yourself from being shanked and having your head caved in? How dare you? That's why this thing is so far on the corner, we need to shoot their ass.
Hey, Mark.
I'm not trying to be mean, fellas, you know that. But it's to the point where you have to stand up for yourself, and the cops won't do it for you. The cops are useless. They really are. They're going to, one way or another, paycheck. And who's running the paycheck right now? The communists. I'm sorry, in a day and a half, the communists. Who's going to tell them what to do on the 20th? The communists. Period. They're Soviets. More on that in a second. But we got a caller. I heard another voice. Caller, jump in there, please. Forgive me.
Yeah, this is BC. You're aware of what Georgia just introduced, correct?
Yeah, which was done as a pre-file, and then they... Yeah, go ahead.
SB 281 to prohibit the possession of automatic and semi-automatic firearms. Semi-automatic is designated as automatic or semi-automatic means any weapon which shoots or is designed to shoot automatically or more than 6 shots without a manual reload by a single function of the trigger, da-da-da-da-da. So we all know what that is. These creatures don't even know what a gun is. But anyway, they're out to do the same thing as Virginia. And I thoroughly believe that governor's conference, as you had brought up last week, that they have basically all agreed to go ahead and do this gun grab regionally all the way across the country over a specific period of time. I was speaking to a National Guard fellow today who I'm not sure is all that bright, but anyway, he said, "Oh, you don't have anything to worry about around here. That's just happening in Virginia." And I said, "Well, I don't know about all that because you got about 7 other states that are falling in a line and going that way." And he goes, "Well, I don't think we got anything to worry about." Yeah, well, I think he's just going to be sorely mistaken. But anyway.
Well, but real quick on that, okay, here's the thing. He's probably with First Army Group, okay?
Well,
I don't know. If he's with the Guard, the country CONUS is separated by different army or different battle groups, okay, different combat groups / army groups. His Guard unit, depending on what he's doing, if they're MP or PW, they will be called up for this. Period. That'll be wave 1. Now the next phase would be probably, and this sounds weird, but combat engineers. Combat engineers will be the second wave. So for anybody out there listening, if you're with a shovel unit out there right now, you better be checking to see what's going on. Here's the 2 things to watch for. Are they building up fuel allotments, and have they run a test on all of their hydraulics on their equipment? And I mean, out of the blue, they'll do an arbitrary, it's not scheduled, they're doing a test of all the hydraulics on all their equipment right now.
Well, here's something interesting about that individual. Of course, he's related to the South Carolina Guard, and he did a year-long tour down in Texas, and he's in administrative intelligence. He does a lot of background checks on people and other things along that line from what he claims, but I don't know what the extent of his position is other than that. And but he did about a year, probably 10 and a half months or so, stationed somewhere down in Texas. And so I don't know what the whole element was doing down there, or if that was just an office job and that's all he did. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, that's what that's what I said about the border deployment. They weren't going to be on the border. His job, if that's what he's doing, that's the kind of person that, again, the administrative support personnel, he's the kind of person they would want, and depending on what his unit does. In fact, there are MI units in National Guard, and there used to be, I don't know if there's any left. I haven't done a survey. I know there's so many, but, communications and intelligence units, they would rotate those in like that. So that makes sense. And again, they're not up front on the line. They're behind the line miles away and have nothing to do with jack squat. Which was a great way to eat up our tax dollars, but it really didn't serve any purpose to help us to secure the border. In other words, it was wasted time. They were spinning their wheels. Great though if you're a guardsman and you wanted to get some active duty time and retirement points. That's
what he's working on. Yeah,
retirement points are the big thing. Everybody forgets. When I was in, they bumped us. We had payless paydays, but they bumped it. What we did is we would work, and you work extra hours because you could build up 1 retirement point a day for every so many hours that you put in, and you had to clock it and everything. It was all kinds of BS paperwork. Well, they realized that everybody figured, okay, piss on it. We aren't going to get paid anyway until the payroll catches up. So we'd stack up as much and get as much retirement point in, as many retirement points in as we could because it was a way to at least make something for the future. You know what their solution was? They cut the retirement point in half. They cut it back. And I've watched this over and over and over again. But again, that's a sidebar. That's BS from within. The big thing here again is there's no doubt that if they do the Virginia thing, and this is what I really want to emphasize, guys, when the bat faggots were working for Bill Clinton and they were confiscating guns and kicking in doors and burning churches, when all of a sudden Bush came in, did he fire all those ATF agents and did they just disappear? No, they were working for the next regime. When Bummer came in and he was promising he was going to get the guns, even though he said, "Oh, I'm not after guns," while he was telling everybody's mother's uncle, they had a solution. It was going to be a sidebar, and then they were going to get the guns. And, of course, the moment he got his second term in, and it was confirmed within less than 24 hours, I'm going to get the guns. Well, all those cops out there were working for him. All those state police were working for him. All those ATF and FBI were working for him. They didn't have any problem following any order at all. And I'm going to point out again that with what you're facing here, there's three phases to this. And phase one, it's just order of battle. There's a bunch of them. How many are there? Who are they on our side? Who they are on our side? On their side. Phase two is the declaratory, which is where we've been. But has everybody noticed how it's gotten quieter and quieter as we get? As I said, this would happen 3 weeks ago. Watch to see how much quieter it gets as the realization, the reality of the eighth just stares them in the puss, which is where we are now. Here's the thing, BC, there's no election solution on the horizon. For everybody who goes, well, you just got to vote more. When are you going to vote next?
About 8 months from now, and that's going to be way too late.
And your enemy is smart, okay? Your enemy isn't exactly slow, are they, BC? They filed all this crap starting back in November, people.
Oh, yeah.
And the moment they got in. So let me ask you, who do you think's got the high gear going right now? Who do you think's actually knowing how to shift gears and move? Obviously, the other side really has already got – it's like – you know how it is like when you get the light on the track in a drag race? Apparently our light changed, but nobody got their act together. Now, to a degree, they figured it out, eventually, but we do have to place this in the lap of all these people who say, well, we're going to handle it now. Well, wait a minute. Shouldn't you have handled it with that election process by making sure that the turds didn't get in? Something happened there, and money doesn't mean anything to me on that. Money does buy votes, but not only in that it bought the voting machines. But nobody wants to acknowledge. See, everybody is trying to look for an out, the old cop-out. Well, we just vote. Voting is at the soonest 8 months out, and even then, all these people that are coming in, they're not going to be affected by that.
No, what's going to happen on the 8th, they're going to swear all these creatures in, and they're going to go through all the formalities of assuming their positions, and then they're all going to march on over probably a week or so later, vote on all this crap, and instigate the process of trying to make it on the book's law. But in the process, as they start marching forward with this crap, I have a sneaking suspicion before they even start sending out any goon squads for collection or harassment, I think they're going to get harassed up the ass first because people aren't standing for it. Everything I'm reading across the board, at least 30 different sites, different sources of news and articles and people's comments, they are red hot, mad as hell, and everybody's gearing up for war on our side. That's it.
And again, there's no giving. I heard another voice. Do we have somebody else being patient? Go ahead, please. Jump in there.
Is there anybody else other than me?
Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead. We got you.
Hey, Mark, you know how when they, bust down your doors and they're going to be coming in the middle of the night and they're wearing night vision? Why not get a light system that automatically comes on when they do it, then it'll help them see better?
Well, the ultra-bright LED stuff that's out there now, I've got 3 of them sitting next to my elbow right here, and one of them's charging up around the corner. The new pan LEDs really are successful at throwing some major lumens downrange, so that is a good thing to help make the night vision pretty much useless. It won't hurt their eyes. Well, technically that probably, everybody says, well, it doesn't hurt your eyes when that happens or black everything out. Down would explain that. But The new stuff is going to do damage or burn. It'll probably protect if you had enough lumens going on, if you had the bank of these things running. My biggest problem with the whole idea of any kind of preparation is, I mean, granted, we're all on the list. Some people are higher on the list. I believe that what they're going to do with this is they're going to be select. They're going to pick a certain number of people, just like the British did on April 19th, 1775. They had a shopping list and they had a location list. And they came out just like what happened at Waco. They had a shopping list of people and they had a target. Their idea was to go out, hit hard, terrorize the population. That's what the government was doing. And we were all supposed to flop over on our backs and beg for them to kick us in the crotch 3 or 4 times. This is what's going to come first. And my personal belief, seriously, they're going to do a snatch and grab on the most vocal sheriff and the county board. I think they'll do 3, but at least 1. And if they do 1, though, it's going to have to be hard and hammer hard, and that way everybody is supposed to be stunned. And I'll tell you why. Trump and his BS, this is out of the blue with overseas. I don't even give it credit for being where it is. Let's just say it this way. Over in the Middle East, they're trying to pull our eyes out of the United States. We're a day and a half away from the shift here. The only thing that BC and I might be a little different on is they've already said that they're going to have their act together so tight that they're going to immediately make Richmond a gun-free zone. They're going to make it and the Capitol building, right? That means they got to walk from you got to stand there, get sworn in, and then go right around the corner in the same building and walk right into the chambers. And it's no reason to say that they won't be ready for that. Why not? They've had all the time in the world to get ready for this now.
They got a game plan, no doubt about it.
Yeah, from November until today, well, 2 days from now, they've had all that time and they have not been wasting it.
Oh no doubt about it. One of the things that they're failing to recognize it's going to be working against them is there is a hell of a large contingency of armed patriots that have been to war, that know how to make war, and have waged war that live in Virginia.
Oh, I pity them.
That's a hornet's nest right there, buddy.
Actually, it's a dark hand. And I guarantee there's a bunch of them thinking just like I am right now. I know because there's people down the street here and just around me here. They're watching all the stuff we've had going around locally. We got stuff going on here. We're prepping for what they're going to do nationally. I know they are. We've already caught them on the ground twice. Well, 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
We've caught them in the area right here in the backyard, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? All over the country, they're doing the same thing. So don't you all go brain dead. Just the reverse. In fact, remember, every operative that dies can't hurt your brothers. Every operative, what Solzhenitsyn said, the wretched machine for lack of operatives and equipment would grind to a halt. There's
enough people.
Well, there's a bunch of them down the road. They're not on the. If they are on the list, it's an old list, and they're not political, but they are vengeful, and they have generations of vengeful. And those people, when this happens, it'll be like a hand reaching out. The other side thinks that's what they're going to do to us. All these people have been tracking where all the enemy lives. They know where where they defecate, where they eat, where they are, and they have one mission. And they told me, I tried to get them political. Every once in a while, you touch base with the key people, and it's like we have no interest in politics anymore. And I don't blame them. Okay, but you know what? The other side, there's an army bigger than the public one, and it's already honed. And it's not the one's begging. Go ahead. No, I'll keep talking.
The one thing we need to keep in mind, and I'll get out of here. Once this kicks off in Virginia, and I firmly believe it's going to hit the fan. Ain't no doubt about it. It's just going to be taking a lottery on which day it is. But beside that fact, with all the element that's ready to wipe these creatures off the face of the earth in Virginia, we don't need to worry about going over there and backing them up. What we need to do is sit here because we're going to have our own people to worry about. In South Carolina, we're going to have people in Michigan. Every state's going to have their own contingency because once this kicks off, the other states are going to probably start moving on their own turf because they're going to say it's either do or die, and they're going to slink back in their holes, and I don't think it's going to happen. Because once they kick it off, it's going to be wildfire. It's going to be a brush fire.
Well, it'd be the escalation. See, everybody does the same thing. Well, they bring in the foreign troops. Well, I've always said for years, okay, the first part of your battle is against the secret police. The
Right.
second part, which is the more critical element, is against the conventional forces. Somebody goes, you mean the American military? No, I'm talking the foreign turds that'll be coming in and they'll be standing next to what little American military they have left. That's the part, because everybody else will think they can move. The Chinese are instigators at the behest of the Israelis. Okay, does everybody understand that? Anything that we've ever given the Israelis, they have passed on to the Jewish, communist, Chinese over and over again. And it's happened. Everything that we've got, that's how they got their first copies. Nowadays, after NAFTA and GATT, they just stole it right over the table. And the difference is the Israelis here that have dual citizenship that wheedled their way into every American company, pissed in our face, handed the stuff over to the communists, and they've got pretty much everything that we've got. And that's how they got it. Period. So the Chinese are one of the biggest problems we've got, only because they've always had manpower, and their technology base, which, by the way, the traders gave them, has allowed them to at least catch up mechanically. And everybody goes, oh, they don't have that much. They have more than enough. Most people don't even realize how big the Chinese merchant marine fleet is. We've talked about this. Remember years ago, it's been a few years back. Their ghost fleet, guys, looks like cities at sea floating. They don't get rid of any of their old merchant marine. They've got it stacked and racked. Now, they bust up some once in a while. Everybody does, but they're building new to replace it. That's why, again, by the way, everybody does know I don't give a squat about this because it's needed, but they're building a new carrier right now. They'll probably have another one done right behind it. So they're catching up on that. Not right away. One carrier is not that critical. But it's the idea that it gives them the expertise and the technical base so they can proceed ahead with a faster program. And step one, slaughter whatever the other side has. Step two, both sides then have to be on an even keel and equal to catch up with each other. We don't have the production capacity. We sold it to the Chinese. In fact, this ain't like World War II. The betrayal is on such a level. Yes, and the weapon systems have changed. Oh, God, robotoids, nematodes. Let's not forget the dronatoids, which everybody's yapping about again. Guys, before I go any farther, microwave weapons. Find every stinking microwave somebody's throwing away. Grab it. You know why they're throwing it away? It's not that it doesn't work. It's that it bleeds. You're going to want to build something that bleeds. So guess what? Those internals from any of those microwaves, big or small, doesn't make a difference how big it is, doesn't make a difference how small it is. All of those can be made into weapons. All these little dronatoid things you're seeing flying around, they're dead. They're irrelevant. Now, here's the thing. When you use the microwave weapon, you become a footprint signature. So guess what? You're a target on the battlefield. Congratulations. It's the real world. It's not beating up the 5-year-old blind kid down the street. Both sides get to kill with equal opportunity. Face that instead of panicking about it. You got all these panty wastes constantly panicking. I'm tired of that. Guess what? The option is this. They've told you they want to kill you. We have ample opportunity historically of them having murdered 120, 130 million Christians because that's what the Jewish mob is planning on doing. They've done it before. You're in the crosshairs. Hell, and if I'm an atheist, they don't care. They'll kill you just as fast, son. Hell, maybe twice as fast, just for the fun of it. Anyway, go ahead. Who do we have?
I'm sorry. Remember what we was talking a couple of minutes ago? You was talking about. Remember the red, blue, and green list.
Yes.
They have got that. They have got that ready to go.
And because of that, we've got to have ours. The first time, here, any of you that are attacked, you might as well kill them all. If at all possible, get away. Have your plans, cash material. There's nothing you have to return to any place that's been attacked. It's done. That location is burned, okay? You need caches of arms, equipment, a little bit of money, and, again, small stuff. But you need replacements so you can turn around, and from that point, you're in hunt mode. Everybody who did that to my home is dead. They're going to be found. Why? Because you have a list. Anybody you see out there bussing around while you're busy doing if you're evacuating, they're all on the list. In the next few days, they're gone. Why? Because you know that they were willing to follow orders to come out and do harm to you. You find them and do harm to them. Why not? All of this, even me saying this, everybody is terrified. Oh, you can't say that. Why? I know I'm already on the list. So why? What am I supposed to be afraid of? Because in reality, if I realize real quick, I've got nothing to lose and everything to gain by killing every last one of the bastards, I should be pretty good at it. And I've already made my decision because I know what the threat is: death. How about them first? Go ahead.
In the 25 years I've known you, you've been telling us about this, and I hope everybody out there realizes it. It's all coming around now. You haven't lied. You haven't made it any worse. It is. It's right down the line. And I know there's other people that's heard it too. But the new people, I hope to hell they listen to you more. And I'll get out of here and I'll shut my mouth. Take care, Mark.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I heard another voice. Go ahead. Jump in there, caller.
Yeah, well, if you say you're an atheist, the bullet's not going to know whether you're a Christian or an atheist or what your name is. It's going to get you.
Right. In fact, it's equal opportunity dying time. And remember, people, there is no such thing as friendly fire. Bullets, no friends. Grenades, no friends. Mortars and artillery and aerial bombardment has no friend. It'll kill everybody. There's no such thing as a smart bomb. They did that for the sake of, again, the propaganda routine. Look, our bombs are smart. They've got stupid bombs. We have smart bombs. Oh, so you mean when you drop it in an area and there's 80% civilians and maybe 20% any kind of military, mostly not? It selectively only killed the military people. Oh, no, we killed everybody and we're very proud of it. Oh, okay. So when they come back and killimate you the same way, then you're all of a sudden shocked and amazed. How dare they do that? Yeah. We've seen this all before. Bombs, again, an ordnance and small arms fire, especially on small arms fire. I'm going to remind you again, watch your backstop. This is the only thing where you have to balance it out. Ignore all these movies where some guy takes a body and throws it in front of him and the guy's got a grand. Guys, that 30-06 will go through 3 people so comfortably it'll make your head swim. So when you see him throwing some guy in front of him, wasn't wearing body armor. You see this all the time. If it was a submachine gun, yeah, maybe plus or minus. But there again, that 9mm bullet, when it's going through the first guy, will probably go through the second guy, or at least lodging him real good at about the same velocity. Most of what you've seen in the movies is designed to condition you to failure, or to again get your friends killed, if nothing else. You don't just blaze away into an aggressor, especially, again, look beyond. What have you got there? What kind of weapon systems are you using? That's why you have lanes of fire and fire control. Remember that.
Yeah, that 30-06 probably go through 5 men who aren't wearing body armor, and a 30-08 would probably do 4.
Yeah, exactly. So here again, oh, sorry about that. We're at the top of the hour. I'm almost going to lose the voice here for a second. Not good. Okay, anyway. We do have the end-of-the-year drawing coming up on the 8 o'clock hour. I'm going to remind, I think Ed already knows this. He's probably going to do a reminder. I'll do it so he doesn't have to. If you would like to donate, you still can. I should have mentioned that 2 hours ago. But for everybody out there, if you can, please take the time and donate. We appreciate all the people that have. You can take a look at our goal. You can see where we are. Last Friday, one of our friends matched dollar for dollar. For every dollar donated, he would donate $1 up to $300. And I know a lot of you stepped forward to the calls. So I want to say thank you there. The last update was on the 1st. Today is the 6th. We have had other donations come in by mail. I want to say thank you. Some of our people don't even want to be in the drawing or anything, which is okay. So again, this evening we're going to have the final drawing for the end of the year billing, and we'll put everything together that we can, square everything away. Edward's going to take donations. We can do it right up until the beginning of the hour, but he's going to be pressed, and of course it's a lot of little scratching, and you got to make slips for everybody's name and however many dollars you donate, because you don't just put one slip in. He's got to put one in for every dollar you donate, guys. So again, libertytreeradio.4mg.com, www.libertytreeradio.4mg.com. Please, if you could, take the time and donate. We'll do our part and keep doing what we're doing here. Go ahead, jump in there. What do you got?
Hey, the $300 challenge is still on for tonight until the end of the introduction service, whatever time Ed's calling it quits.
Okay, so for everybody out there, if you heard that, if you donate $1, our caller here will donate $1 up to $300. And so that's still in motion. So if anybody wants to donate, guys, you'll be doubling our numbers by doing that.
Hoorah.
Hoorah. Appreciate that. Thank you for coming up. I can't emphasize enough where the clock is ticking. I mean, I'm not panicking. Do you hear me panicking? But I will say that there are certain things that I'm hearing from those who are now realizing, again, the dark hand of evil is now reaching for the doorknob and is going to be walking into the government building and going to be in charge. And their logic is they can tell the cops to do anything, and they can tell the National Guard to do anything, and there are no rules, and they're going to destroy and burn all the rules anyway. And then they're going to come in and kick your door in, or they're going to have somebody kick your door in. And they're all proud about this. These Fruit Loop nutcase pedophilic queers, a $3 bill, sociopaths are on the march. Now, everybody out there, if you haven't been taking advantage of well, here's the thing. We're going to buy more time. Okay, well, how much? Well, Virginia, you're out of that. We bought it. How many people were organizing militia 2 and 3 years ago when they should have, and had them in place and everything ready to go, and you wouldn't be running around last minute, and they won't look like a mob, which you got to remember, that's why the enemy kept bad-mouthing the idea of organized militias. Because if you're all organized and then you just plug everything in, you slide into what you need to do, and then you tweak your management accordingly based upon the threat. But you'd already have a solution that means you can destroy, you could decimate the aggressor. Why do you think all those backstabbers and naysayers and monkey pokers were mouthing about the militia? Many of them, the ones that are now going, oh my God, they're after our guns. Now, granted, they were coached by the controlled press. And they should have known better because they'll tell you all about how the controlled press lies about Trump. Right? Well, then they lied about the militia. Oh, no, I believe them about that. You know how stupid that sounds? Realize how stupid that sounds? In other words, the only thing they lie about is that, well, let's see, anything having to do with the Patriot effort, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, they hate all of those and they're trying to burn them right now. These red flag laws are an absolute destruction of the Bill of Rights of the United States. Hell, the only thing they don't technically cover is Article 3 / what you all call Amendment 3, but the first 10 weren't amendments, they're articles. That's okay. We'll stick with amendment because everybody can understand, but they were articles. All the rest of the elements of the Bill of Rights are violated en masse, and all these people are pushing this garbage. They're your blood enemy, and they need to be shot. Well, I can't say that. I did say that. I won't hesitate to say it. Bastards need to be shot. Because this is that battlefield you've been waiting for. But anyway, that's personal choice. Maybe you can make some excuse and figure out some way to talk to your enemy and throw somebody else from the sleigh, and maybe you can sacrifice half the gun owners in Virginia. Oh, well, half for the moment, and the other half will be next because, well, you can make a deal. Yeah, we'll see what happens. God bless our republic. Yeah, for the New World Order, we shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run. We're in the march. We're going to get out of the way for now. More LPR coming up, and then 8 o'clock. We will be back again. God bless. Bye-bye.
gentlemen, prepare to defend yourselves.